Hey, Kevin.
Hello.
Let's see. Nice looking setup.
It's on the little island bar in my kitchen because I don't have a room to myself at the moment.
That's all right. That's the way it goes.
I think the trickiest part is getting all the cat hair out of my sculpts.
I'm just trying to make sure I've got everything set up right. Had a bunch of updates on my computer before, and I was scrambling to get them all done in time.
That is definitely what I have to do at work lately.
Hey there, Kittle.
Hello.
Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
How is everybody?
Good.
Doing well.
Cool.
Okay. I think I got it already. I think I got the live chat up in case anybody types a message. All right. So what's everybody working on tonight?
I am probably going to start the head of a Dragonborn. I don't know how well this is showing up.
Sweet.
I'm doing my second. Oh. So I'm doing my second orc lineman.
Awesome. Oh, wait, let me get it back over there. There we go. Cool.
Yeah.
Making your own Blood Bowl team?
Yeah, that's the plan. I think. Although I might get bored about halfway through, but we'll see.
All right. I think that I basically sent out invites to the patrons in batches, and I think maybe that worked because it seems like we're getting more people who are getting the invites this time. So that's awesome. And if anybody didn't get an invite that was supposed to get one, just type in the chat and I'll send it out again. Hey, Jay. I've decided I'm going to try and get some work done on this goblin tonight. Force myself to bulk out the body. Just get it done. So I posted a video the other night, kind of a kicking my butt to start doing making minis kind of stuff again. But I didn't make it public because I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I want to post it. You know, I got down and dirty because I'm like, I just got to do something. I just got to put it out. But after watching it, I thought it was so terrible and pathetic. Which was kind of the point too, because I'm like, I just got to do something. I don't care. Who cares how bad it is? But then I didn't put it up, and then I realized that I had put it in a playlist, so people were finding it. So I've made it private. So about 30 people got to see it.
So is the goblin a commission work, or is this just for whatever?
Is it bedtime?
Oh, yeah, Mom's putting the kid down.
God bless.
Sorry about that.
My wife just was wonderful and did the same thing, but fortunately, not so much crying. They're older though, so.
Yeah, he's 3. He's at that age where defiant as ever.
Yeah, they always tell you how terrible 2s are, but when they're when they really know what they want, but they're still little, this can be rougher.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just built I've got a 4-year-old and 2-year-old. I just built them a bunk bed. I made it slightly too high, so the back corner, unless you actually get in the bed, you can't reach from outside the bed, and they've both figured that out. So bedtime is lots of shouting, telling them to get out of the corner of the bed.
Oh my God. I decided to use straight Procreate this time instead of mixing in any Aves because it's pretty warm here. And really the main reason that I mix it in is that the Aves is that I like my clay and putty to be a little softer, and sometimes the Procreate can be a little too tough. But when it's warm out, it's real nice to work with just as is.
I've actually found Procreate's a little more gummy to work with than green stuff, and I always heard it was the exact opposite.
Really?
And maybe it's just the batch that I have.
Could be. I know my green stuff is always way softer than my Procreate. It would be really soft if I were to be working with that right now. But I knew there are, some of the batches, they do vary. So.
But I also work with a 70-30, maybe 80-20 yellow to blue mixture, so that may be part of why I feel it's softer.
Mm-hmm. I have to mix up more putty. How's everyone's July been?
Fairly productive.
Cool.
Wasn't able to get as much as I wanted while the kid was out of town, but I think part of that was not having a putty oven. And
yeah, when you can't cure along your putty, it definitely forces you down to be slower.
Well, I mean, it works perfectly for how I normally sculpt, which is, in between work and things like that. But, because I'm always working in short bursts.
Right.
It's 8 to 12 hours before I come back to work on it. And, when you have all day, all of a sudden you're just like, I've got to wait a few hours for this.
I think that's actually what messed me up in some regards, because that's how I worked for so long when I first started sculpting and with putty. It was all between jobs and after hanging out with the family, so you never really needed the putty oven because you just did what you could, and then you had to go on to life. And then when I would have more time to sculpt, I ended up sitting around because I didn't have it all planned out as efficiently.
Yeah, and I think that was the other part of it too, was that because I'm used to working in short bursts, I could concentrate on one area and just go for every little detail I wanted to, and it may have been a better use of my time to work larger but not as detailed parts of the whole sculpt.
Hey, Miko. Miko just finished editing the latest episode of the Mini Sculpting Super Show, and it looks awesome. Oopsie. Man. Never ceases to amaze me how tricky it is to jumping back and forth between materials.
So what mixture of Procreate do you use?
Pretty much just straight 50-50. I used to put in a little more white, but that was more out of habit of doing a little more yellow with the green stuff.
Is the white the equivalent of the yellow?
Yes.
Okay.
But I feel like 50-50 is pretty good. I tend to like 50-50 Procreate better than I tend to like 50-50 green stuff. Although I found myself doing a little more with 50-50 with green stuff. I feel like I don't really need it as much more, to have a little more yellow as I used to. But I also don't use it as much, so.
Well, I've found sometimes the different mixtures, it's either a visual thing or sometimes it's a structural thing. So if you're filling in the gaps on a cloak that may be too thin, 50-50 tends to give it a little more strength. And then if I'm working on hands, I like to do a little underlayer of 50-50 so it's dark and it's almost like you get the shadow when you put the lighter on top of it.
That's interesting, yeah. Oof. My kids just started school today, so pretty early, but.
Are they in a year-round program or is it?
No, it's but it is I don't know what it's called, balance calendar maybe, where they have a shorter summer, but they have more breaks throughout the year. Not more breaks, but maybe longer breaks. So like they'll have, like a 2-week breaks or something like that during the year, and kind of breaks up the summer a little more, spreads it out throughout the year. Those are kind of nice.
Does it allow for more vacation?
Yeah, or at least you can make more of your vacation.
You can go when it's not super peak times.
Yeah, and so that's pretty nice. Okay, starting to get a shape going here. It's always a little nerve-wracking for me trying to do a large amount at one time in putty, but it really can be done, and it is kind of nice because it actually forces you to move around and get all those proportions worked out at once rather than just doing a leg or just doing a foot. But it takes some confidence that you will have time. I remember the first time I was at sculptors group meetup in at Gen Con. I met Sandra Garrity, and she was showing how she would do the pants of the figure in one go, and it wasn't just the legs. It was full of detail and folds and buckles and all sorts of stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, I have trouble with buckles and belts if it's a little too wet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more inclined to just let it cure.
Yeah. I've gotten better about going in before it's totally cured, but it is nice. It's good to let it set up a little bit in certain spots. But really, if you're working in a really large area, by the time you're done with it, it will be somewhat set up, and it won't be totally firm. So you do have to get used to that. But I actually think in some ways working with Fimo helped me in that regard, because obviously it's always uncured until you're done.
I always fear that I would smush too many heads if that were the case.
Yeah, it's a possibility. Accidentally muted myself.
And by the way, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jay.
I had my mic muted. I was talking.
That's what I did last time.
Anyway, I'm going over
How's it
the
going?
Little Knife and Cronin figures I got.
Oh, sweet.
And they're really great.
Mm-hmm.
Mold maker. I was like, oh, I think I'll break them out and file down the seams. I can't find any seams. Like, I can't find the mold seams. They're really well. They're molded really, really well. Really pleased.
Yeah, I was really happy with Fortress Figures. I mean, I'm always happy with their work, but I feel like they've just gotten so much better, which is crazy to think of because they've been doing this so long already, and they do such a great job. But I actually think they've gotten significantly better in the last couple of years.
I mean, really,
so yeah, if you guys
find a seam to file down.
That's awesome.
Clipping some excess material off, you know.
I need to paint mine. I haven't painted any copies of them yet. I never paint my miniatures.
I don't either.
I don't know why. I think, yeah, why don't you?
Because I'm not a great painter, and it's I like them raw. I just like the metal look. But that will change because I bought paints. When I knew that I was going to get these in the mail, I was like, you know what? I'm going to paint. And I've been studying color wheels. I'm also colorblind.
Oh, okay.
So, like all my art through like grade school and high school, my teachers were like, oh, he's so creative. It's like I wasn't creative. It's just I didn't know. That's the way the colors look to me, you know? I was trying to be natural, and they thought I was being expressive.
Huh. You can still be an artist, obviously.
Sure.
I'm amazed, though. Well, every now and then I'll come across an artist who needs to deal with color that is colorblind, and that just blows my mind because, I mean, what a challenge to overcome. But you can still, you know, do great with shapes and forms, and
yeah,
I'm sure there's tricks and stuff. That's cool, though. I've been starting to paint some more. I finished painting which if anybody saw that video that I threw up in lockdown a second ago, I finished one of Patrick Keith's miniatures for Counterblast. Those little Illyrian, these little dwarf-sized, one-eyed aliens. Super cool little characters, and so I just finished painting one of those. I purposely tried to keep it the color palette and everything very simple and easy, and I chose colors where I could basically just throw a wash over it afterwards, and I wouldn't really have to do any highlighting because you'd be able to see the definition. And
Right.
It was cool. I like doing that because it looks good, but it didn't take much time. And man, there's just so many miniatures to paint. I can't keep trying to paint them, super award-winning style or anything, especially because I'm not there, one, and two, I'd rather sculpt with my time.
Well, and it gets expensive if you don't paint much. I went through 2 sets of acrylic paints when I was. I mean, I say that I haven't painted, but I've painted before.
Mm-hmm.
But I went through 2 sets of acrylic paints, and I only did probably, I don't know, maybe half a dozen models.
Is that because they get old or dry out?
Yeah,
I
I did it so frequently they dried out, and
yeah,
it's
that's
expensive to buy every time I want to paint.
Right, and you want so many different colors unless you're really good at mixing, which that's an art in of itself. Yeah, I try not to mix too much either because I can never get it right. So I try and just use the colors I have, maybe do a very slight mix every now and then. But
I think the problem with mixing is consistency.
Yeah.
If you have to do it in batches and you have to go over larger areas of a model, it's easier just to have various shades that 50-50 or whatever your ratio is, as opposed to how many drops of this did I put in.
Yep.
I will be taking a course. What was the convention in
Adepticon? Gen Con?
No, in Texas here? I believe it was ReaperCon. Yeah,
Awesome.
I looked into that.
Yeah, you should definitely do those. Those are great classes, great people teaching
they
them.
had like a bunch of beginning painting classes and sculpting classes. Like when I looked into it, I was like, oh, I'll definitely do that.
Oh man, you will learn so much at any of those classes from those people.
That's coming up. That's in October, isn't it? That's
Yeah. I was hoping to go this year. We can't make it this year. Maybe next year. I've been saying that for too many years, though.
That's quite a distance to travel to go to a convention.
Yeah. But
especially when you got.
That's where all my artist friends are. That's where they all go. I just haven't been able to swing it for one reason or another. All right, this is coming together pretty well. Yeah, I think I don't paint my miniatures because I'm kind of sick of looking at them. I don't know if I'm sick of it, but you spend so much time, and then to go back and paint them. And most of the time, I'm all excited to paint other people's cool miniatures since I didn't get to sculpt them. All I can do is paint them.
When I paint mine, I just see all the flaws.
That's the thing too. Yeah, that's a good point. Miko Y says he missed the start. What are we all working on? I'm working on a little goblin character. And what's everybody else working on?
Dragonborn.
I think Kettle is working on a orc lineman, I think he said, for Blood Bowl.
Oh, yes. Just trying to find some reference material.
Reference is good. I probably should have the picture of this guy up, but I'm kind of winging it. Let's see. Trim this leg. Biggest thing for me when I'm sculpting with the putties is I like to have a little bit of kind of, I guess, angles to my miniatures at times. And the putties always like to get rounded. So you gotta hit it just right and at the right time to kind of create planes and get it to hold, because it just wants to pull and bubble.
I think that's my biggest. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that's my biggest issue with cloaks. When you want that crisp fold, I think cloaks are probably, and capes are my biggest struggle.
Yeah, especially like you said, if you got them thinner and flowing, if they're like against the body and you can kind of cheat it by bulking up form, it can be easier. Oops. But I have to say, I do like having a finished putty sculpt at the end. It just feels, it's so much more robust and durable feeling. Like, not that the Fimo is that fragile, but this material is just so much more durable.
Are you familiar with a sculptor named Jeff Grace?
I am.
I've always felt that he's had the just cleanest lines on his cloaks.
Oh my gosh, yeah. He does a lot of work for Dark Sword, right? Nowadays.
Yes. In fact, that's
all real
Dark Sword is actually the thing that inspired me to start sculpting miniatures and stop modifying Lego men.
Ah, yeah. Hey, let me ask you that. So were you using green stuff to modify your Lego men? What were you using, or any tips? My son's very much into making his custom characters, but he hasn't done a lot with sculpting yet. But I bet you he would really love to get into it if he could do it to his Legos.
So I started off with Milliput, and I started off with the super fine white, but some of that mixing can be a little hard. I've actually found that the green gray was a lot easier. The downside to that, if you can see this tool, that's just from residue that just built up over this. So this did a lot of sculpting with Milliput. So that's it gets everywhere. But the good thing is it's water soluble, so you don't need Vaseline or anything. Just a little dip of water will help smooth a lot of that stuff out.
Cool.
If I can go digging through my phone, I'm sure I can post some pictures of some of the sculpts that I did. I guess one of the things to keep in mind if you're doing the Lego, Milliput's really brittle, so if you have little fine like claw hands or something like that, it's going to break off real easily.
Have you used the green stuff or Procreate on it? Or do you pretty much only do Milliput?
No, whenever I moved to, it was more of a progression in what I was doing and what I was using.
Gotcha.
I've never actually tried to. One of the reasons why I started modifying with putty on the Lego figs was a website. I saw a green stuff sculpt of Han Solo, and I went, "Wow, that's amazing!" So I know it's done.
Cool. I'll have to suggest that to him. He'll probably just ask me to do it for him, though. He had me sculpt a little samurai mask on. We got some the Test of Honor game from Warlord Games, and it did. None of the samurai had the samurai masks on their helmets. He's like, he really likes that look, so I did one up real quick. It was nice. It's nice to do quick little things like that from time to time, especially when they're a little different too. Gives you time to practice, and you can just knock it out, move on. Ugh, blending putty. I unintentionally put a really good pun in the intro for the next episode of the show that I didn't realize. I showed the preview link to a buddy of mine, and this video is about sculpting toenails and feet. I couldn't make it just about toenails. As you'll see in the video, it takes me like 2 seconds to do the toenails. What I should have done, I should have put that part first and said, okay, we're done. See you later. Thanks. But no. So I sculpted a whole foot and talked about that. But in the beginning, I was like, I really got a kick out of the idea. But I had no idea that I was making like a super bad dad joke.
Oh, that's greatness.
Might need to get a different chair for next time. I'm kind of hunching over a little too much. So speaking of the Kickstarter, everything's been shipped out and fulfilled. There's a couple of people that haven't finished, filling out their forms and stuff. But other than that, I've sent out everything I need to. The only thing I need to do still, I'm saying this here as a kind of reminder to myself, I have to post the video to all the backers of the of me sculpting Princess Amelia, that miniature. So I was like, oh, I got so wrapped up in the actual Kickstarter part. And that's been done. I just have to like render it and kick it out. So I will try and get that out this weekend. We're all doing so well at sculpting and focusing on our work.
Yeah, I figured I'd stop blabbing this time and let you get some work done. When I'm on, I usually just yak your ear off and you end up just talking the whole show.
That's all right. I can do both. I'm committed to doing both this time.
I'll hold off on the chit chat till the end.
I was making this guy's butt bigger, but now I think it's too big. I think it's got to come off.
So do you normally sculpt the whole body before you put the head on?
Yeah, I'd say I do more of the body. If I'm doing Fimo, and actually in this case, because he's actually going to have a pretty large head in proportion to his body, some continuing that kind of cartoon style. I try not to do at least the face. I try not to do the face till the very end. I try and do it somewhere in the middle, just because if you put it off, if I put it off, I can just keep wanting to put it off, and it builds up. But I like to get at least the main head proportion in there pretty quick, and I do that with Fimo. Like I would have already put a lot on the head if this was Fimo, but since I'm just focusing on the body, it's what I'm doing here. But it's also good to put the face in early on too, I think, because you can really kind of nail the expression that's supposed to happen with the body, and make sure it's facing the right way. And if stuff develops, you can adjust it slightly if necessary. But yeah, mostly I used to basically leave it till the very end, but it became a big procrastination point, so I forced myself to start doing it sooner. Yeah, I can already feel this stuff setting up. It's getting harder to move around. That's the good thing about it being warm, is that the putty's a little softer, easier to work with, but it does cure a bit faster.
So what do you consider warm?
Whatever it is in my house right now. No, it's been 99 all day today.
Okay, so yeah,
and
that's pretty warm.
My air conditioner does okay at 90. 99, it's it's not 99 in here, but it's warmer. I don't know. It's probably high 70s, or maybe even, I don't think it's 80, but it's a little warm. Not super uncomfortable, but I'm not super comfortable. I know it's different for everybody, but when it gets in the mid to high 70s, that's actually I prefer to sculpt in that temperature, just because the material is easier to work with. It's softer. When it's cold, I always would have to have like a space heater by my work area, so I could warm up my hands, because my hands would be so cold it would actually make the clay or putty hard to work with, even if I had rolled it and warmed it up. Are my tools super loud when I'm dropping them on the table? Should I not do that?
It's not bothering me.
Okay, cool. I'm never quite sure how. I know I've got sometimes if on certain mics they seem to pick up more, but I think this one's toning it down a bit. So I'm feeling like it's getting close to time for another challenge, another making minis. Not like I did it before, but just a personal commitment to doing something every day. So I've really gotten wrapped up with other things and haven't been working at it as much as I want. Also, I want to try and do a like a public challenge or contest thing for people. Get everybody on board. I'm thinking about Sculptember. You know, everybody makes up months, names for months and stuff. There's no big holidays there, right? I mean, is that when Labor Day is? Is that September?
Yes.
Yeah, but that that's it's not like Thanksgiving or anything. So, but yeah. So what do you guys? So let me tell you what I'm thinking, and you guys can tell me if you have any thoughts or suggestions for it. So, back in the day, there used to be these cool little contests on the one list. Basically have a month. Sometimes they would stretch it out to 3, but really, you really only need a month. People just get busy. But basically, I don't know. I was trying to think if it should be a do a sculpt in the month and show it off, or maybe it's more of like a making minis challenge where you take that month and see what you can create, how much you can create by working a little every day. I don't know. Part of me likes the idea of saying, hard, like just do a sculpt or maybe 2 sculpts. I don't know. It's hard to think what's realistic for people. I'd like for them to be able to accomplish it. So
I think that's realistic. 30 days, even if you can only get an hour or 2 on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's.
Well, yeah, well, maybe that could be the thing. Do a sculpt more if you want. Do one sculpt in September and post about it. You could post like your progress, and that would that's always the thing. Like on the one list and stuff, you could post and everything, but it wasn't necessarily part of the challenge. It was more just to get it done and then post it at the end. But this way, if you're posting what you're working on, it gives you more incentive to keep going. So people see what you're doing and can help encourage you. And
I think that's a great idea. I always get amped up when I see other people's work. It makes me want to.
Yeah.
Makes me want to get into it more. I love seeing people's posts.
All right, well, get ready. I'm gonna get it set up. We're gonna do it this September.
Will you count casting?
What do you mean? Casting your minis?
Well, so I'm kind of getting to the point, and obviously there's August in between everything,
Mm-hmm.
but I tend to go in phases. So when I'm done doing a batch, I'll cast all of them, and then I'll paint all of them, and then I'll take a break, and then I'll start a new batch.
Gotcha.
So I may not be ready by September, but I may be in another phase of something.
Mm-hmm. Well, as with any of these challenges, I think the most important thing is you don't have to live by the letter of it. It's more setting it up and giving parameters so that you have something to shoot for. I mean, what did I do? I've done like Inktober and stuff, and I mean, I actually technically did complete it, but I chose to set it up and make the thing I was drawing a simple thing so I could do it, because I knew I couldn't do like a full character or an illustration every day, that sort of thing. So absolutely, because the real point is to be doing stuff. And, as you saw with the Making Minis challenge that I did, I knew that I was going to be in phases too. I couldn't literally sculpt every day. I would have to do other things. Hey, TJP. But yeah, so absolutely. And I think it'd be cool to see you posting those up too, and how your stuff's come together, and especially if you took some pictures of the actual process. So do you have your own machinery, or how are you casting them? Resin or?
So I do the RTV. I think that's the right acronym.
Yeah.
And depending on the sculpt, I either go through Alumilite's Quickset, and that's just because that's what's quick and available to me.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll use I think it's the High Strength 3, the pink stuff, the real stretchy stuff. And it just depends on where the sculpt is. Most of them is Quickset, just because I'm doing 2-part molds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of been its own sculpting process in and of itself. It's got a whole set of things that you learn every time you make a new mold.
Yeah, that's cool.
For example, it's the stuff that cures at room temperature. Room temperature vulcanization, I think, is what it stands for.
Okay.
So it's basically like epoxy. You mix a catalyst into another compound, and then it sets up after a designated amount of times. And there's so many different types of rubbers out there with various properties for various whatever. I mean, it's a whole other rabbit hole if you want to get into it.
Do you have a Hobby Lobby near you, Jay?
No.
Oh.
No way.
Well,
I do. It's like 3 hours away.
Oh, that's pretty far. I was gonna say they have this type that Kevin's talking about, the Alumilite stuff. They have a nice little starter kit there, and they usually have their 40% off coupon, so you can actually get it for a pretty good price.
Which is pretty much what I do.
Yeah, just whenever you need to refuel, you just go there.
In fact, that's the most expensive part to this hobby for me, is whenever I get to the casting stage, is just buying all the silicone and buying all the resin.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd be afraid to put I don't want to ruin my original.
Well, that's actually something that's really good about the RTV is I'm not sure you can. I mean, I think the only way you could is if, depending on how you were cutting it out of the mold, if you didn't, but you don't even have to cut it out of the mold if you set up the 2-part mold, right? Right?
Yeah, it depends. If you don't know what you're doing, you can definitely screw something up. The very first thing I ever cast was a monster that had 6 limbs, and I didn't know anything about mold planes or anything like that, and I ripped so many pieces off just to dig it out of the silicone. Learning how to do this stuff, you tend to make your models. Like, for example, I've got a sculpt right here that I'm going to have to redo because I did the little fingers, but I'm thinking I'm going to need to cast this thing, and I'm going to have to do something to fix that, because I know what it's going to be like when it molds. All these little fingers are probably going to get little air bubbles, or the silicone's not going to get down into there. So I have to think of a way to either fix the sculpt, or whenever you're creating your mold, how you cut your air channels, or where you put your seam. It's a whole nother thing in and of itself.
Yeah, as much as I really like the idea, and I might get an RTV thing just to mold up some small kind of more one-off things or really low quantity things, I just send it to Fortress because it is a lot more, but it is really cool.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of headache, and it can be a huge mess, and there's all sorts of things involved. If you don't want to commit to it, it's completely understandable.
Yeah.
My wife often jokes that this will be the source of our divorce.
I'm sculpting toes. Maybe a toenail. We'll see. Oops. probably mix up some more putty, but we're so close to the end. I've made such good use of this batch. But it's getting so stiff. Huh?
It looks like it's getting a little stiff.
Yeah, it is. I can't even hardly pop it off. But yeah, this is what I was mentioning earlier. This is a great stage to, like, if you've got other details to put on, you know, yeah, the understructure can still move a bit, but it's significantly firmer now. I just saw Miko said when he paints his miniatures, he covers his flaws, so I don't get to see them. I always like how your miniatures end up looking painted. I still can't believe you don't cast them first. So they're like super original. I hope you cast them someday. Or ones like them. You guys should definitely go over and check out Miko's channel if you have a chance. He has some really cool, like, animal character figures. He did a really large, nice series of them during the Making Minis time.
Like actual animals, or like anthropomorphized, or
anthropomorphized, yeah. Yeah, they are probably a little complicated to cast. Good point, but much better.
Have you ever painted on with a polyclay?
Painted on top of polyclay?
Well, where you dilute the polyclay down so thin that you can actually paint it on.
I have not. Like a little slurry slush thing like they do with real clay?
Yes, there was I can't remember the channel out there, but it came up in one of my suggested videos, and it was a guy who was just doing, he wasn't doing full minis, but it was just either a head or a torso or a, he actually did, you know, hands, and he started off with a green stuff and milliput mixture to make it hard, and then he actually just rolled out by hand little pieces of green stuff, and then he went back with polymer clay and diluted it so thin that he was able to paint it in to get kind of fill in the fingertips.
Wow, that's cool.
Wait, once again, what? How did he do this? How did he get it thinned down?
He got a mixture of green stuff and milliput, and that made his base. And then he put green stuff, just rolled out made little miniature snakes, and did each individual figure. And then when that cured, he diluted the polyclay down so much that you could actually see him brush it on. And then he would go back when that was better, or I guess you bake the polyclay. And then he would start bulking up in teeny tiny little batches.
Do you know what he was using to dilute it?
I don't. It may have said in the video.
I might. It would be turpentine, kind of like when we smooth it down, or if he was actually using something else. That's pretty cool, though.
I mean, I didn't subscribe to the channel. It's just one of those, like, it was one of those random things that popped up. I'd have to find it again, but I might post it on the Patreon community. But it was a really neat video. I saw it's just, you know, new little tips and tricks.
Oh, that's cool.
The first sculpt I did, I diluted down a poly clay with mineral oil, and
Yeah.
it got really, really, really soft. It made a great texture, and it baked great. And except for now, when I'm looking at it after it's sat at room temperature for a couple months now, it started to crack.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know if that's because the oil dried out of it or what's happened, but
Well, the mineral oil and stuff does break it down a bit. I mean, that's what it's doing. So that could be. Maybe it disrupted the bonds. I don't know.
right.
I don't know a lot about it all, but the actual chemistry. But
Yeah, I'd like to know what he used because I liked the idea of softening my clay, but in the long term, it didn't work out well using mineral oil. And that was just a shot in the dark. I didn't know what else to use. I thought, oh, I'll give it a try.
I've used turpentine, but I don't use it that much. And the most I do is like, I'll brush it on a really rough spot and smooth it out. But there's usually I usually end up putting more clay on top at some point, it seems like.
But I really like that idea of getting it so thin down you can paint.
Yeah, I'll try to find that video again. I might post that link on the community part.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a way to do some extremely, extremely fine detail.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like it's taking a long time. Okay.
I think I'm actually not going to be able to manipulate this anymore. I'm getting dents in it now because I have to push so hard to do anything. It's my last chance to do anything because it's putty.
So you're making a troll type character?
Little goblin.
Goblin?
Oops. Yeah. I might try and do another one in Fimo, but I'm gonna try and go through the rest of it first. But if I don't know, it's always tricky doing these guys with kind of weird proportions when I'm using clay or the putty because I'm kind of figuring things out. I mean, I've done sketches ahead of time and everything, but I don't have it in front of me, and this is something different. So kind of just working it out as I'm in it. But I'm pretty happy with it. I haven't sculpted anything like this since when I first started freelancing, or just about. I did some little goblin characters for Grimy Games. Actually, I should post some pictures of those. I'd be curious to find out if anybody ended up getting any sets of those, because they didn't sell a lot, but they were sold, so they're out there.
Did you ever do any modular sculpts?
I have done some limited modular sculpts. What's it called? Rusted Heroes for Fanization. They did a miniatures game. I think all those miniatures are actually still out there and available. But let's see, they had modular heads, and they had a modular forearm system where they're kind of ball socketed, and you couldn't always use every arm set with everybody. Like if a guy had a two-handed weapon, his forearms were socketed to that, so it wouldn't necessarily line up really well with another miniature. But if they had like a sword in one hand, a shield in the other, those you could swap and put wherever. That was not fun to do. I think I could do it now, but back then, the engineering, like doing that. But yeah, I learned a lot more tricks these days. Plus, I'd probably do it with, I don't know. That was putty back then. I don't know. I go back. I like them both, but go back and forth. All right, we're just about to the end. Does everybody want to show off what they completed before we sign off? I've got my little goblin body and legs. That's what I was hoping for. Got that done. Feeling pretty good about it. All right, who's next? Let's see. There's Kevin.
Bulking out the head on the Dragonborn. It's
oh yeah, I see the eyes. It's coming together. Cool. And Kettle's got his.
Yeah, got my lineman. Got most of the muscle work sort of roughed in.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Very nice.
Just need to smooth that off and his shorts as well. So starting to rough that in as well.
Very cool.
Hopefully I'll get it finished soon.
How about you, Jay? You been working on anything?
No, I was just perusing the Little Knife and Cronin figures.
Cool.
And kind of nipping and filing.
That works too. You gotta play as well. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming on. I gotta head off and go wrap my son's last birthday present for tomorrow. So, but it was great hanging out with you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.
Yep.
And I'll see you next month.